Before this story begins, please subscribe to this channel and watch until the very end. Do not skip, because what you are about to hear starts at a wedding, but it ends in a way nobody in that room was ready for. The millionaire brought his maid to pretend to be his fiancée at his ex-fiancée's wedding. Everyone thought it was a joke. Everyone thought he had lost his mind. But by the end of that night, the bride was crying, the groom was shaking, and the maid was no longer just a maid. The wedding hall was full. White chairs, soft music, expensive suits. The bride stood at the center, smiling for photos. She looked perfect. She had chosen power. She had chosen money. She had chosen a new man. And she believed her past was finished. Then the doors opened. He walked in slowly. Sharp suit. Straight back. The same man she once promised forever. But he was not alone. Beside him walked a quiet woman in a simple dress. She held herself with care. She did not look rich. She did not look important. But she walked beside him like she belonged there. Whispers started at once. That's his maid. I've seen her at his house. Why is she here? He did not look at the bride. He did not look angry. He walked to the front row and sat down. The maid sat next to him. He took her hand. The room felt tight. Months earlier, the bride had left him without warning. No fight. No long talk. She simply said she needed security. The groom offered that. Bigger business. Bigger name. Bigger promise. The millionaire said nothing when she left. He only said, "I hope you never regret this." Now he was here, watching her marry someone else. The bride tried to focus on the vows. But her eyes kept moving. They kept finding him. And each time she looked, she saw something worse than anger. She saw peace. The ceremony ended. Applause filled the hall. The bride and groom kissed. Cameras flashed. But even while smiling, she searched the crowd. He was still sitting there. His hand still holding the maid's hand. At the reception, people gathered around him. "Who is she?" He answered clearly. "My fiancée." The word hit the bride like a slap. The maid looked shocked for a second, but she stayed quiet. She played her role. She smiled when people congratulated them. She said thank you. She stood straight. She did not embarrass him. The bride finally walked over. "You moved on fast," she said, her voice sweet but tight. "Yes," he replied. "I learned something important." She forced a laugh. "And what is that?" "That loyalty is worth more than status." The groom joined them. He shook the millionaire's hand hard. Too hard. It was not friendly. It was a warning. The millionaire did not react. The maid noticed something small. The groom's smile dropped the second the bride looked away. His eyes were cold, dark, controlling. Later that evening, the bride found herself alone near the hallway. The maid was there too, fixing her shoe strap. "Does he love you?" the bride asked quietly. The maid paused. "He respects me," she said. "That matters." The bride swallowed. Respect was something she had not felt in months. Across the room, the groom watched them. His jaw tight. Something was wrong. The music got louder. Drinks were poured. Laughter filled the room. But behind the smiles, cracks were forming. The millionaire stood to give a short toast. The room went silent. "I wish the couple a life built on truth," he said calmly. "Because without truth, even the biggest house falls." The groom's face darkened. After the toast, the maid stepped outside for air. She was not used to rooms like this. She felt small again. She reminded herself this was just an act. He only asked her because he needed someone he could trust not to embarrass him. But when she turned the corner, she heard shouting. The groom was angry. Not loud enough for the crowd, but loud enough for the bride. "You think I don't see how you look at him," he said. "I'm not looking at him," she replied. "You regret this already." Silence. The maid stepped back unseen. Her heart beat fast. She realized this marriage was not built on love. It was built on fear. Later, the groom grabbed the bride's arm too tight during a dance. She forced a smile for the guests. The millionaire saw it. He stood up. He walked to the dance floor. "May I cut in?" he asked politely. The room froze. The groom laughed. "Of course," he said, but his eyes burned. The bride's hand trembled as the millionaire held it. They began to move slowly to the music. "You look tired," he said softly. She blinked back tears. "You shouldn't have come." "I didn't come for you," he said. She looked confused. "I came to close a door." Her breath caught. The dance ended. The bride returned to her husband. But something inside her had shifted. She saw clearly now. The control. The anger. The small signs she ignored. The maid watched everything. She felt strange. This started as a favor. But tonight she saw a different side of the man she worked for. He was not trying to hurt his ex. He was protecting his own heart. The groom pulled the millionaire aside. "You think bringing your maid here makes you look strong," he whispered. The millionaire did not flinch. "Strength is quiet." The groom leaned closer. "You lost." The millionaire shook his head slowly. "Did I?" At that moment, a business partner approached the groom with panic in his eyes. There were problems. Serious ones. Money issues. Deals collapsing. Documents not signed. The groom stepped away, angry. The bride stood alone. The maid walked toward her. "You don't look happy," she said gently. The bride finally broke. "I made a mistake." The words were soft, but they were real. Across the hall, the groom was shouting on the phone. Guests began to whisper again. The perfect wedding was cracking. The night was almost over. Guests were leaving. The music had stopped. The groom stormed back into the hall. He grabbed the bride's hand roughly. "We're leaving," he said. The millionaire stepped forward. "Let go." The room went silent. "This is my wife," the groom snapped. "For now," the millionaire replied calmly. The bride pulled her hand free. "Stop," she said. Her voice shook, but she stood firm. "I can speak for myself." She turned to the millionaire. "Why her?" she asked, looking at the maid. He looked at the maid for a long moment. Something honest passed between them. "Because when I lost everything she stayed," he said. "When you walked away, she was the one who reminded me I was still human." The maid's eyes filled with tears. She had never heard him speak like that. "I asked her to pretend tonight," he continued. But somewhere along the way, pretending stopped. The room felt heavy. The bride looked at her new husband. Then at the man she left. She understood too late. The groom laughed angrily and walked out alone. Business calls still ringing. Image broken. Pride hurt. The bride stood frozen in her wedding dress. The millionaire turned to the maid. "You can go back to being my employee tomorrow," he said softly. "Or you can choose something else." She looked at him. Not at his suit. Not at his wealth. At him. "I don't want to pretend anymore," she said. He nodded once. They walked out together. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just steady. And inside that quiet exit, something stronger than revenge was born. If you made it to this point, you now know something the wedding guests did not. The maid was never the smallest person in the room. And the richest man there was not the one who paid for the wedding. It was the one who finally chose loyalty over pride. Subscribe because the next story will be even deeper.